Now, this next presentation is not so much about music in itself. Many church musicians have taken it upon themselves to present themselves as experts in the field of worship. Worship is not music. Music is not worship. Music is an element in worship. It's a vehicle through which we can convey our worship to God, but it's not synonymous with the word worship. But what I'm going to speak about now and what we're going to discover comes from Exodus 25 onwards right through to Leviticus, and it's where God is instructing the building of the sanctuary. Remember, God says, "Let a sanctuary be made that I may dwell among my people." He did not leave the design of that sanctuary to any human being. He personally designed, because that sanctuary was a reflection of the order of heaven. So he tells Moses dimensions, materials, the ways in which things are to be used. And we see God instructing Moses that the materials to be used were to be the finest materials. Things were to be overlaid with gold and silver. Very, very precious materials to be used. God even speaks about the color scheme to be used. In the designing of the clothing to be worn by priests, there were certain elements in the design which were to prevent the clothes from swinging out, as some versions of the Bible say, when the priest moved from one place to another. So God was very particular about even the way in which the clothes fit. And this is an area we often come across when speaking about people who lead out in music. Does it matter the dress that is being worn? Well, when you're in a position of leading out worship, then there are elements which we can draw from these chapters which speak about the attitude that we ought to have when coming to God. After the giving of the Ten Commandments, one of the texts very, very close to the end of the Ten Commandments is a text talking about going up on the altar using steps. And God says that the altar should not be approached using steps because the nakedness would be exposed. So God here is addressing the whole area of modesty. Later on in Scripture, we even read about the materials that the priests should use so that their bodies had the ability to breathe and their bodies wouldn't sweat. So even down to these very details as to how clothes should fit and what you should be able to see and not see and how you should smell, all of that is part of God's design, because we're representing God. We're coming before a holy God. Excellence in materials were to be matched by excellence in craftsmanship. There are various texts where God says, "I have given this particular person wisdom and skill in the arts and crafts." And to those people whom God gave this skill were entrusted the task of designing and constructing the various utensils and the various physical objects to be used in the sanctuary at the time.